Throughout this video, we're going to be basically covering your strength training plan, where to find it, how to run it, when to increase certain weights, and how and when to push yourself, rest times, and basically everything you need to know. So the first thing we're going to cover is basically where to find your strength training plan. So most of the time it's going to be scheduled in your calendars. However, you can find your entire workout plan under the tab that looks like a kettlebell at the very bottom of your Trainerize app. So you're going to be able to see all of your workouts there. If they aren't scheduled into your calendar on a certain date, you can always go into the workout page and select the workout rate from there. Next, we're going to cover warm-ups. So how long should you do them for, and what should you be doing for your warm-up? Typically, you want to start with about a 5 to 10 minute warm-up on the treadmill or bike. This is going to bring up your body temperature and allow you to look at your program for the day to know exactly what you're doing. Next, you're going to want to make sure you're doing warm-ups with the actual lifts that you're going to be performing through the day. So if it's the first time hitting a specific muscle group, you want to make sure that you're doing 2 warm-ups to get yourself ready for that movement. So the first warm-up, you're going to be doing around 10 reps at about 50% of the weight that you're doing, around half the weight that you're going to be working with. Next, you're going to do another warm-up of about 5 reps or so at around 70% of the weight that you're going to be working with. So don't need to pull out the calculator here, just guesstimate. Let's say we're working with a chest press. It's the first time we're working chest for the day. We're going to be doing 10 reps of around 50% of our weight. Let's say we're working with 20 pounds. So you're going to do a 10-pound warm-up, 10 reps. Next, you're going to do a maybe 15-pound warm-up with, 15-pound warm-up for about 5 reps. And then you can get into your working weight of about 20 pounds for however many reps you're doing. If you're moving into an exercise that you've already hit that muscle group with, you only need to do that second warm-up because you're already pretty fresh for it and you just want to go through the motions. So if you're going from, let's say, a chest press to a chest fly, on that chest fly, you only really need to warm up for the 5 reps for the 70% of the weight that you're working with. After that, you're ready to roll and you can start moving into your working weights. Remember, you want to be warming up with pretty much every exercise that you're doing, whether you're doing the 2 warm-ups or the 1 warm-up, you are getting your body ready for the movement that you're going to be doing. Next, I wanted to touch on intensity, or how hard should you be pushing yourself. So typically at the start of my plan, I want you starting at around 2 to 3 reps before failure. What that means is basically you have at the very last end of your rep that you completed, you knew you could have completed probably 2 to 3 more reps after that. This is hard to gauge sometimes, especially if you're new to training, but sometimes that'll look like your movement of speed is slowing down, but your form isn't breaking. Things are getting difficult and they're getting a little shaky. This will allow us to make sure that we're making progress in the next coming weeks, but still get good stimulus to the muscle. We want to make sure that we're not going to full failure every time, because how do we improve after that? But we want to make sure that we're not working so easy that your body sees no reason to make any changes. So if you notice at the end of your set that you're finding you're around 5 or more reps before you actually start to fail out, or before you start to get to really high fatigue, you need to be increasing your weight and bringing your proximity to failure a little closer again to that 2 or 3 range. Most times you'll notice that the program runs for about 4 to 5 weeks. What this does is it allows us to bring that number down slowly as the weeks go on. So week 1, you're starting at around 2 to 3 reps in reserve or reps left in the tank. And then as we go into week 2, you're going to be increasing your weights or maybe increasing your rep count. So it automatically is going to be getting harder. So that number should be coming down week to week without us really actively even thinking about it. So week 2 should be around maybe 1 or 2 reps left in the tank. Week 3 should be around, again, 1 or 2, maybe 1 rep left in the tank. And then that final 4th week, or if we push it to week 5, we should be close to full failure. Especially on things like machines, it's totally safe. Obviously, I want you to keep a rep left in the tank if you're doing something like a chest press or a squat. But that's that accumulation of fatigue that we want throughout the weeks. We want to make sure that we're making things harder and harder and harder. Again, the way we do that is by increasing our reps and weight, and we'll cover how to do that in our next one. So when should you increase your weights versus when should you increase your reps? You'll notice a lot of times in your plan that you have a certain rep range rather than a set rep number. The reason I do this is a lot of times when people have a certain number, they're going to force themselves to get to that number, whether they're breaking form or whether they were close to failure at all. So the way this program works is you have a certain rep range, and you're going to try to hit the top end of that rep range every week. And if you're not able to hit the top end of that rep range, you know that you're going to keep the weight the same and just keep working on those reps. So for an example, let's say you do your chest press, 20 pounds, and you're doing 4 sets of 8 to 12. Let's say for each of those sets, you hit your 12 reps and you're good to go. Next week, you have nowhere to increase the rep count because you've already hit the top end. So you're going to increase your weight. Typically, you're going to increase your weight by about 2.5 to 5 pounds every week. This might change depending on the exercise or machine that you are choosing. So as you go into your next week, you've increased your weight. Your reps may fall behind a little bit because of that increase. So week 2 might look like 12, 12, 11, and 10. Now you know next week, week 3, that you're going to keep the weights the exact same and work on that rep count again. So a good rule of thumb is that if you've hit your top end of your rep count every single set, you're increasing your weight next week. If you didn't hit your rep count for each one of your sets, you're keeping the weight the same and you're going to increase rep performance next week. So that's a good way of thinking about when to increase weight is, have you performed the top end of the rep count that you are supposed to be doing? And if so, yes. How much? 2.5 to about 5 pounds. Adjust if needed. So how long should you be resting for? I get this question a lot, and in your program, you're going to see those rest times, and I do want you guys to use those. However, I do want you to go through a checklist by yourself as you're training to make sure you know when you're ready for your next set. And this gets easier and easier as you go along. So the first one is your target muscle recovered. So again, we're using the chest press as an example. Does your chest feel recovered enough to get another good set and within the rep count that you need? If you're only taking 30 seconds, your performance is going to be vastly deteriorated. So make sure you're taking the rest time to make sure you're getting good stimulus for your next set. Next is as your total body fatigue come down. So with something like lunges and squats, you're going to feel your heart rate come up a little bit. And we don't want the heart rate to be the limiting factor on our next set. So make sure that when you're going in, your heart rate has at least somewhat dropped, so that the quads, or again, the target muscle, are going to be the limiting factor and not your cardio. And next is, do you feel mentally ready for the next set? Again, with exercises like squats and deadlifts, they take a certain mental capacity to finish or to do. So you need to make sure that you feel mentally ready for your next set as you go into it. Again, the third one is obviously less important if we're working on things like machines or cables. However, it is something to be aware of when you're going into your next set is, do I feel mentally ready for this? So go through that 3 box kind of checklist to understand if you're ready for your next set, whether the timer is done or not. So can you modify your workouts on your own? A simple answer to that is yes. So you can't edit your whole workout as I have the ability to. However, you can edit certain aspects of your workout. So when you're going through your plan and you need a certain substitute for an exercise, you can totally do that. So beside your exercise, you're going to see 3 small little dots. You can click on that and it'll go to a substitute. So you're able to pick a substitute for that exercise. Of course, if you're changing an exercise, try to let me know first so that we can figure out if it's a good switch for it. But as long as you're picking around the same type of movement and targeting the exact same muscle group, I usually won't care too much. Again, especially if you're out of town, at a hotel, or maybe a piece of equipment is being used at the time. As long as you're doing the same movement and matching the same intensity from last week, it won't matter too much. So feel free, if you ever need to modify the workout when you have to. Can you edit a workout after it's already been completed? Yes. So once you go into your plan and you've completed a workout, you're going to see it checked off on the calendar on the day that you did it. If you ever need to change the stats because maybe you were rushed for time, only could put in a certain amount of things, or you just simply forgot, I do it all the time, you can go in afterwards and then again click on that workout that you have completed. At the top there will be the 3 dot tab. Click on that and you will have the ability to edit your stats and input anything that you maybe forgotten there. So don't be afraid to go back and change certain things if you need to. This is especially important for the subsequent weeks that you have going forward. If you didn't track your weight this week, you're going to have no idea what to put the weight at next week. No idea if you're working harder or easier. So make sure you're recording your workouts. And again, don't be afraid to jump in there and edit them if you made some mistakes. So what happens if I missed a workout within a week? The big question I get a lot is, should I still do those workouts just later on, pushing into my week 2? Or should I just skip those workouts and move into my week 2? So there's kind of a two-part answer. So the first one is, if you have to push your workout back into like just the Monday of the next week, get that done, because chances are you're probably going to be able to catch up from the rest of the week and get that done. However, if you're finding weekly that some of your workouts are pushing into your Tuesday and Wednesday into your next subsequent week, we need to have a discussion of what your sustainability is like and what your frequency needs to be like. So in this case, we would probably change your frequency to a little bit less so that you're able to complete all those workouts within the week. Again, if once in a while a workout trickles into a Monday, that is totally fine. Get that workout completed, finish off that week, and then start your week 2 on the Tuesday or Wednesday. Again, depending on your frequency and how many days you're training per week, you should be able to finish that week 2 up on time. Again, if this is becoming a consistent issue and it's pushing a little further into the week, we need to change how many days you're training per week, because it is not working for us. So how long does a program run for, and what happens when we're done? So typically you're going to see my programs run for about 4 to 5 weeks. This allows us to accumulate fatigue week to week and allow our body to adapt, get stronger, and build muscle. Typically after that, you're going to see a deload. So with a typical deload, option 1 is a little bit more advanced, is we go through a full deload of basically after your final week, we go through another week basically doing the exact same stuff, but we're cutting almost everything in half. So we're cutting our reps in half, we're cutting our sets in half, and we may be cutting our weight in half in the later half of the week. Again, this allows us to really drop our fatigue and recover, and then come back into a new plan so that we can really accumulate the fatigue again. Mainly what I'm going to be doing with you guys, though, is we're going to be doing kind of a hybrid approach where we're still doing a deload, but what we're going to be doing for our deload is a new plan. So with week 1 of your new plan, you will be automatically dropping intensity, because we're going to have new exercises, new rep counts, and maybe some new set counts as well. So maybe some intensity techniques like drop sets or supersets or giant sets. So your program will change enough that from there, you're going to be dropping the intensity and breaking the plateau of the previous plan. Again, as we move into the new plan, we're going to be able to accumulate more and more fatigue week to week, and then hitting another deload or another new program, and then accumulating again. So you can see how this line is kind of coming up. We have a small drop, and then we come back up again. So we're never really starting at the same point where we started on our previous plan. So we're always constantly getting stronger. So there it is, your training plan. Like I said, it's going to last anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, and sometimes you may hear me refer to them as phases or mesocycles, and it's just another word for that program that lasts 4 to 6 weeks. An accumulation of these programs, typically around 3 of the programs, is going to make up what we call a block. I'll explain a little later on of why the block's important, but basically allows me to look at the underlying goal and break things down into how we're actually going to get there month to month.